Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and we are going to talk about a couple different things today, from embracing change to successful habits. And we are here with a very accomplished person to do that. Edit BK, it's so great to have you here, and I'd love for you to just go ahead and give us a little brief introduction about yourself before we dive into everything today.
Hello, everybody, and hi, Mr. Whiskey. Thank you so much for having me today. So I call myself holistic therapist and success habit coach because that's what more aligned with how I help people. And I started my journey, my holistic journey, like 20 years ago with some Reiki energy healings. And then later I also became a yogi and then a Shakam healer. And I realized that how important it is actually to take care of ourselves and our habits to reach our goals. I'm also a goal setter. I love reaching my goals. I'm a high achiever, I would say. And then just recently finished my book, The Gap Filler Success, which is also about reaching goals and what steps to take towards that.
Yeah, and what I want to start with, which really interests me, is that you had a 15-year career in petroleum engineering, which is very different from what you do now. So, can you tell us what got you into the petroleum industry and how did that kind of shape what you do today?
It's a really interesting story how I got into it. I believe that we all channel something. I believe that we connected to the source and then the informations which coming to us meant to come to us, right? So I
Mm.
was a teenager back in the time when there was the Gulf War was happening, right? And then it was fascinating all the situations around it, and I was like, wow, the oil is so important, petroleum is so important, these move countries. And I was like, yeah, it could be interesting to work in that industry and also travel a lot because I know that people who works in that industry, they travel and I loved travel since childhood. So that was one of the things which called me to that. And also because I was good in math, and physics. So I had a good analytical skills. So it was kind of easy to learn for me to become an engineer. So that was kind of which leaded me to that direction. And I was really passionate about it. I love the how can I say, the boot camp style, like working with men, working outside in nature and getting dirty. I don't know. I just enjoy that. I had two brothers, so maybe that's why. So that's how I started.
Okay, and 15-year career, what got you out of it?
Yeah, so it became a bit too demanding, too stressful,
Mm,
that
yeah,
I had two children and I wanted to spend more time with my kids. And then I also felt that it's really draining for me, like, and then not that interesting anymore working with numbers, always watching the screen and just working with softwares, numbers, calculating, like stuff like that. So
right.
I lost that interest. And then I felt like I want to work with people more, like I want to become more a people person and helping others with the tools I learned and which helped me to heal from my issues. Because the transformation was not instantly from 9 to 5 petroleum engineering to holistic therapist. It was between I actually quit the 9 to 5 first when I first experienced like the stress and the draining energies. So first I took myself out of that situation. And then when I was a contractor engineer and I had more freedom to decide when to work, how to work, that's when my interest started to drop towards numbers and stuff, right? So that when was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. It's just not my cup of tea anymore.
Right. And so what kind of happened after you quit that 9 to 5? What did you do in the meantime to help develop into what you do now?
So when I quit 9 to 5, we first wanted to move to New Zealand. My family, we were living at that time in Hungary, and I felt like, yeah, actually, I was on top of my career. I was a chief engineer in an American company in Hungary, an oil company, and I just quit because I was overweight. I felt not energized, like drained, fatigue, and
Right.
stressful. And so basically, we said, okay, let's go to New Zealand because they advertise themselves like a good work-life balance. So might we can have some better lifestyle there, right? So we went there for 7 months. We couldn't stay there because we were trying to get a job. We were in the immigration process, so they helped us to get through this, but still we couldn't find a proper job which was aligned with our profession. So after 7 months, we had to come back. And then during these 7 months, I was already a Reiki master. So I used these energies to heal myself, to stay also positive while we went through this whole thing. And it was one of our best time of our life, 7 months vacation, kind of like sabbatical,
Right.
taking ourselves out of life and out of the system, for a while. And it was also great because we had like 3 summer in a row, like if you go there, it's on the southern part. So we went there end of summer and we started the spring there, had another summer and come back in the
Okay, nice.
spring. So like 3 summer. So anyway, when we came back from there, that's when I got the contracting position and already started a much freedom lifestyle and much more like more convenient with the children and enjoying more freedom basically. And then that also gave me the possibility to go into the karma yogi trainings to train more about spirituality, mindfulness, energies. So it gave me space then.
Right, and that kind of leads us closer to today. So, what are you doing right now and have been doing for the past few months and years with all of the work that you do now, which obviously, again, is very different and took time to develop. So, can you kind of describe like what your day to day looks like and the people you work with and what you do?
Yeah, so people comes to me most of the time with PTSD or feeling lost and hopeless. Like maybe they are just uncomfortable in their current situation, but they don't know what next, like how to get out of it. They feel stuck. Or they come to me with depression or anxiety, panic attacks. So these are kind of the group of people who I help with. And I have different programs. They can come for a 30 days incubator, which is like a couple of private sessions with me and also having some homeworks to do. Like every day they have to meditate certain meditations. And also there is an online course they need to follow and do the homework. So that's like a 30 days when I can bring them from misery to peace. Like people think that if they have depression or panic attacks, they need to go to a speaking therapy for years. I heard from them, from my clients, they came to me and said, oh, I was actually on speaking therapy for 7 years, but nothing really shifted. It was just like bringing up the awareness, understanding like, yeah, something is
Right.
wrong. But then what? So what to do with that? Something is wrong. You can't hide under a rock, when you feel bad or something like that. So basically, I help them to shift themselves out of that misery and then feel again empowered and just cheerful and happy again. So they come to me with like, very sad and depressed. And then at the end of the 30 days, they are cheerful and happy and ready to move forward, right? And then also have a group coaching is if someone wants prefer to be a part of a community because it's interesting that people loves to be in communities, right? They love that support. They love that they're coming on a Zoom call together and then they actually hear about other people's stories and the questions. And so they love the community aspect of the healing journey or the coaching as well. So that's also possible. And that's also I provide every week we come together with my clients. And what else I do, I also do my podcasting, my TV show, and I also provide services like means meditations every week. I do live meditations and then coaching on this show. So this is how I spend my days actually, and writing my books besides that.
Right. So I want to talk about the books, but first, you mentioned your show. Could you share the name of that show for us, please?
Yeah, it's called Release with Ease. I called it Release with Ease because I want people to know that actually they can release the past on an easy way. It doesn't need to
Mm.
take long. It doesn't need to be too much effort. It's just need to go through certain steps. But it's possible to rewrite the past. It's possible to release what is like doesn't serve them anymore. So yeah, so it's Release with Ease, and it's actually produced by Bold Brave TV. So if someone is looking for it, they can find it through Bold Brave TV on their YouTube channel, or also on Spotify. Release with this. If they just search it, they can find it as a podcast as well there. Yeah, every Friday. Actually, it's gonna be today. Every Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm live. Yeah.
Alrighty, and I think what you said is so important, the release with ease, because I think a lot of people fear that they're going to have to relive every painful moment and go through everything in detail, which you can do that if you need to, but you also don't have to continually relive all of those painful, terrible emotions. Like you said, the ease being an important part, because I think a lot of people get intimidated by what they expect or think has to happen in order to get healing, and they do build it up every day, especially if they're a person struggling already with anxiety or other emotions. It just becomes this bigger and scarier thing. But like you said, with ease, and especially when you have, like you mentioned, community support or someone who's specialized in working with this. And then just speaking of specialized, you mentioned working on your books. So tell us a little bit about your books, kind of what we can get from them. And of course, we're going to have your website in the description below where your books are listed. Then you mentioned also finishing a new one. So tell us about that as well.
Yeah, so my first book was published in 2022. This is the On the Healer's Journey. This I wrote actually during COVID times, and then I wrote this to people who, it's also the coaching book for seekers. It's people who start to be in their awakening journey and they start to feel uncomfortable in their environment and see that people don't understand them anymore. You know, they have issues with their family members. They are like an outsider, and then how to go through this. Through like loving themselves, respecting themselves, and still carrying that, knowing that actually they are the one who needs to wake up other people as well. They are the one who's gonna embody the light, and then just has to show up on a positive way and to moving forward with that light, and just being nice to everybody. So this book is talking more about like some healthy practices, healthy habits, also about some empowering energies, and basically how to set boundaries with family members and stuff like that. It's also have some mandalas for coloring. So if someone is like a bit stressed or want to dive deeper into their minds, then they can color the pages in it as well, like a coloring book. So my recent book, which I just finished, is not published on Amazon yet. It's just possible to buy it from a link from my site. So this book is The Gap Filler Success, and I wanted to write this book because as I was going through life, and then I reached so many things, so many of my goals, and so many of my dreams, that I felt like I want to share to people like how to do that, how easy is actually, and then what kind of steps they can go through. And then I even divided the book. For the first part is for people who is not that spiritual. You know, they don't really believe in a higher power. They believe in their
Mm.
own way of doing things. So the first part is more about like what actions you can take, how you prepare, so on and so forth to reach your goals. And the second part is about like how you can actually use manifestation or law of attraction or astrology, numerology, or certain energy practices to enhance reaching your goals, or your getting your dreams. So that's how this book was coming along. And then I also put in a lot of examples from my life. So it's kind of like a storytelling book as well. So it has all kinds of stories from my travels when I was living around the globe in different countries. So that's also in this book. So if someone is interested to have some sort of storytelling besides some coaching.
Right. And in that book, you kind of mentioned what you talked about in the beginning of the episode, goal setting. So, what can you tell us about goal setting? Do you feel like most people have it wrong? And if so, why is that? What can you tell us about goal setting?
Yeah, so when you you set a goal, it could come from different directions. Like, why do you have that idea actually that you want to reach that goal? This can come from other people. Maybe you see different people, what kind of goals they reached already. You see it, in social media, you see your friends. Do you have some influence like, okay, I want to reach that goal because I want to be like that person, or I want to reach that goal because I want to have a life like they have. But there is another kind of goal which you channel, which you actually wake up in the morning and you feel like, wow, I wish I could do this and that, or I wish I would have this and that. That's kind of like a different goal. And I kind of realized in my life that when I was tried to reach the goals, which was like through an influencer, it was much more difficult because it wasn't aligned probably with my higher
Mm.
self or with my own heart desire. It was just like, I just want to be like them, or it's, that kind of way. And
Right.
it was much more difficult. Or even if I reached that goal, it didn't accelerate it into anything else, or it didn't felt the same way. And when you reach a goal, which was like through channeling or from your heart desire, it's more aligned. It's more feels like you feel more fulfilled when you reach those kind of goals. So that's the one thing which I would recommend to people, that don't follow too much about what others reached already, but try to go inside, meditate, relax, tune into your feelings, emotions, and heart desires, and like what you really want in life or what you really want to achieve. And that goal is gonna come much easier and more, how can I say, more supported by the universe as well, because it's kind of aligned with your soul purpose or mission kind of way.
Right. I actually agree a lot with that, especially nowadays, in the fact that we have so much social media content, so many influencers, whether they call themselves influencers or not, in fitness, fashion, food, health, everything you could imagine. And the youth are consuming that more and more every day. Like we've talked about before on the show, children are being born and handed a phone or a tablet at a young age, and they're seeing these people who do things. And we've talked about the self-esteem crisis and mental health crisis because of that, because some of these influencers make things, that are very difficult to do, or very, not everyone can do them. And they say that anyone can do them, and they stage it, or they Photoshop it, or they edit it, or they, have a lot of money and pull a lot of strings to do it. So I think, like you said, there's a balance to be had where it's good to be inspired and influenced to a degree to learn to want to aspire to achieve a goal. But I think what you said is so important, the self-alignment, and a lot of times there's also peer pressure. There's always been peer pressure, but now you have this kind of virtual peer pressure coming from the likes, the follows, the shares, the comments. What people are seeing is trending, and that's another thing too. I feel like a lot of people set goals that are kind of like jumping on the bandwagon. It's trending, so now I want to do this. But it's something that you never wanted to do before, or will ever want to do again. So I think it's important to stay true to who you are, like you said, and that motivation of why do I want to achieve this? Is it to be like someone else, or is it to be me? So I think that's really important. And then I know you also have two other books on your website, the One Habit for Entrepreneurial Success and Rising After Abuse. Can you tell us a little bit about those as well?
Oh, those books, in those books, I was a co-author. So the One Habit, Entrepreneur Success is was published in 2020, and then the main authors were, one of them were Forbes Riley, and then I was in her group at that time, Facebook group, and then she offered, to become a co-author in this book. And that was the first time I was writing chapters, and I was really excited about it because I already had book ideas, but I didn't really knew like how to bring them into life, and then it was just like an amazing opportunity. And that book actually made me #1 bestseller on Amazon. So I'm also really grateful for that. And it also brought an amazing community because we were so many people in that book, and then we stayed connected, some of us from that book, and I just have friends from that time since, because it was a really great community. So that book is actually have many even famous people in there, like as I said, Forbes Riley, even Kevin Zorbo, also Paul Logan. So there are famous people in that book too, who was already influencers, or actors, actresses. So they put also their habits there. So what it in that book we had to write two chapters. One chapter was about a habit which actually brought us more success, and then the second habit which we had to get rid of to
Hmm.
become successful. So because there are people struggling with self-sabotaging habits, and we need to get rid of those and then implement the good ones, basically, to move forward towards our goals. And then the self-sabotaging habits are, which is might is bad for your health, is bad for your
Yeah.
environment, is bad for your relationships. So the first step is to realizing what are those habits, like just you need to again sit down with your own self and look around yourself, or just watch yourself, observe like what am I doing all day, or what habits I'm having. And it's really difficult to point out alone. Like sometimes people need another opinion, like a coach, like a mentor who's like seeing you in a different perspective, or even your spouse or anybody in your environment, like asking them, or if you can't pick on like, okay, what are my bad habits, right? And then when you get rid of those, then starting implementing good habits. But it's not like an overnight thing. Like it takes weeks and months because of you reprogramming your subconscious mind. The habits are in your subconscious mind, and they are since you were a child. They could get there, like from your environment, from your parents, from your friends. You inherited those
All
habits,
right.
and then now you want to get rid of them. It's going to take a bit of time. And then the good habits, again, you said that there is positive things also in the influencers, of course, because we see their habits, like what kind of habit they use to reach their success, and like or to have a great body, or to have a healthy body. And but again, with the good habits, again, it's important to understand your own self, because maybe that habit is not good for you, what is good for other people. So you just need to analyze and then see like, okay, what brings me more joy, what brings me more healthier body, or more vital body, or and then just trying out things. That is really important, to try out things, how it actually affecting me myself if I'm trying those situations, because it's not because maybe it's not that the one which you need to stick to. Is taking action, inspired action, and trying out things is really important.
Right. So you said you wrote about one good habit, one bad habit. I want you to share one of the two right now and then leave the other for us to go read about. So it's your choice whether you want to share the good habit or the bad habit.
So the bad habit, I would start with the bad habit. I would share that one. So the bad habit
Okay.
is negative thinking. Negative thinking, because we are our most the worst enemy, right? We
Mhm.
are our worst enemy with our negative thinking, with our negative assumptions. When we expect something to happen and it's not happening, we making up stories, right? We making up assumptions, and it's ruining our life, because first of all is making you worry, making you stressed, making you feel negative emotions. And sometimes you make up stories like about other people or situations, and you even put them on a wrong view, or situation, and then you become angry, or you feel betrayed, or whatever it is. So I always say that if you start becoming more mindful, and you practice more meditations, you become more calm and peaceful, you can start controlling your thoughts. And whenever you feel like you getting into negative thinking, just stop yourself basically and tell yourself some good stories, like, oh yeah, it's probably gonna work out, or even if this and this is not happening, something else is gonna come which is better, or so on. So having that trust in the whole system or process or in life, having that trust, having that belief that always everything is turns out well in your life basically is really important, and having a optimistic positive mindset is really important, because the negative thinking is creating these negative emotions, which is actually ruining your health as well. It makes you sick physically, so people can get diseases being always angry or thinking always negative, so it's really important to stop the negative thinking and become a more positive trusting person.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We've had a couple different episodes kind of going over the how fast negative thoughts can grow and how slow positive ones can grow and how it's so much easier to fall down and sink down into negative thinking and especially the importance of when you first wake up, setting a positive mindset for the day rather than waking up with dread and just going through the day with all these negative expectations, how much it can affect you. So I completely agree with that. And like I said, we're gonna have your website and description below where you have your books, your blogs, and then tell us a little more about your workshops and your training and everything else you do.
Yeah, sometimes I have live retreats or workshops online. I do everything online, so it's I'm not kind of limited by borders, or continents.
Right.
I actually can. I am grateful for COVID happened, because that's which is shifted me to be online. Because before I was actually working only with clients in London, and after that, as I established my online business, it's now I am reachable. From I have most of my clients are Americans, but I have European clients as well and Asian clients. So it's like, yeah, so all my retreats, workshops are online. Normally I do it like once in 2 months. Mostly they are about ancestral healing or energy healing, also about manifestation and obviously the trauma release. Because I believe that if you want to reach your goals, there is like 5 main steps you need to go through. And the first step is to have a conscious decision what you really want. It could be anything, a healthy body, money, whatever you want. So have a conscious decision. Yes, I want that. That's my goal. And the second is to reprogram the subconscious mind, as we talked about the habits, but also the beliefs, to make it aligned with your conscious decision, because sometimes they are not aligned. Sometimes your belief is actually not supporting what you want, and then to work on that. So the subconscious reprogramming, I do that also in workshops. And then the third point is the releasing the emotional traumas from the unconscious mind, so you can actually move forward easier, because you're not self-sabotaging yourself through your triggers, because you get triggered and you're riding an emotional roller coasters because you used to have traumatic experiences. So when you heal those, you have less triggers, you are more resilient, it's much more easier for you to move forward with your plans. And then the fourth step is basically the getting aligned with the universe, knowing about numerological portals, some astrological background, and also how to even communicate with the other side, with the higher dimensions, with spirit guides or ascended masters, because you can get help from them. You can get help these higher energies to reach your goals. And also, if you know your numerological portals, like when to relax, when to push, because we don't want to always hustling, because then you're just gonna burn the candles on both ends, right? So it's like having that, knowing that rhythm, knowing that phases when which what you need to prioritize in which time, right? Not always working, working, working. Right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you rest, that's when you adjust, reflect, analyze, and then you can get into a better direction. And the fifth step is basically taking the inspired actions. As I said before, it's really important, not just dreaming and thinking of it, but really go for it, really taking actions. Even you feel fearful, even you feel like is it, even you have doubts, just do it, and then you will see how it turns out. But even if you are not perfect in something, many people is the biggest issue is with them the overthinking and the perfectionism, that they want to do
Yeah.
everything perfect, or they overthinking things before they actually even take a little step, and that's what is keep them stuck. That's what is blocking them to even write a book or get out there or meet people or
Right.
do something for themselves. Yeah.
I completely agree. I've seen a lot of people I've encountered have the overthinking, perfectionism, or like in my case, both, which is the worst combination to have. But I think, like you said, it's important to just take those first steps, And but what I really liked the most was the burnout prevention, the right time and right place for things. We live in a very fast-paced world now, with everyone always pushing for everything to be done faster and faster and faster. And I think, like you said, when you rest is when a lot happens and a lot of good happens, But a lot of people equate rest to being not productive at all, that if you're resting, you're not working, therefore you're not productive. But you got to look at the bigger picture, which is hard for a lot of people to do that, you know, mapping out your rest and your work so that you can reach that goal in a more timely manner. Because I like actually the Navy, when I was in the military, we had a saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Because if you try to go too fast from the start and you mess things up, now you're going all the way back to sometimes square one and you have to redo everything. And I've personally rushed through a lot of things in my life and ended up having to go back and restart. And I'll tell you, it's like the worst feeling in the world to then see, especially if you're competing with others or even with yourself, to see that like, hey, I could have been done already, but because I rushed or I didn't get my rest or because of this, now I had to restart and now I'm behind. And it just the more you have to restart and the further behind you'll get. So I think it's so important, like you said, to avoid that burnout. And you clearly did that with the petroleum industry as well. When you started getting overworked, tired, not being able to see your kids, I think it's important. Sometimes it does require leaving your job, and other times it requires just a vacation. It really depends on who you are and where you're at. But I think that is such an important piece of advice to always reflect on.
Yes, back in the day when I was an engineer, I haven't had the tools I have now, like the karma yoga tools, like those meditations, those healings. If I would have had those, then I would start practicing those. Then I am sure I would have looked at differently my job with a different perspective, and even my life and my time, how I spend my time and everything. So I could even stay in my job and being productive while I'm also enjoying the time when I'm not there, and focusing more also on my health. But because I didn't know how to practice these things, then I was just all over the place, and just felt like everything is like over me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ms. Kiss, like I said, we're gonna have your website and description below for people to find out more information, including reaching out to you. But I want to thank you for your time today, for coming on the show. I feel like you've shared a lot of great advice for us, and I encourage everyone to think over everything, especially those 5 steps. And ultimately, I'd love for everyone to think about what are your good habits and what are your bad habits, and what do you need to change. And then again, embracing change by setting goals that are achievable, aligned with yourself, and then also, what do you need to do, and know that it can be done with ease. That, there is an easy way to do things, and I think a lot of times we end up making things harder than they need to be. But thank you for coming on the show today and sharing all your wisdom.
Thank you, Mr. Whiskey, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride. Jokes and laughter fill the air, on this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of the ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.